This is Abnormal Entertainment.
2, 3, 4. Walked into the tunnel just to find the light. Hunted for old demons, looking for a fight. Looked up at the stars, seemed to go forever. There must be a way, it all fits together. Fell into the quicksand, held on to the vines. Never could quite color, stay within the lines. Feels like I have wings, I can fly wherever. This is just a way, it all fits together. Finally saw the world through rose-colored glasses. Gonna share my journey to small and large masses. Give up on my life, no sir, me never. This is how I put it together. This is how I put it together. This is how I put it together.
Hey everybody, this is Daniel Garza. Welcome to another episode of Put It Together. I'd like to start as usual, inviting all of you to check us out at abnormalentertainment.com. Go check out all the shows on the network. Today I'm excited. I have a good friend of mine, a bro, I would say. The man that I look up to, who I want to become when I grow up. How you doing, Ozzie?
I'm doing good, Daniel. How you doing?
I could see you biting your tongue there, so say something. Come on.
I mean, yes. Looking up can be so many different things and angles and all that, but we're not going to get into that right now. It's a family show.
Yes,
right?
yeah. Well, it's never really been. But if we're going to start today, this was this was the worst episode to start making it a family show. If that's the case. Ozzie and I met in 2013.
Yeah, somewhere around there, 12, 13, right about there.
Yeah, because it was we'd already been working a while before I had cancer, so we were working for a couple of years. So for those of you that know me and have been following my story, know that part of my journey has been working in promotion. So I did promotional work for several companies for about 10 years, and I ended up working this one promo. And Ozzie was basically he was a client. So I ended up going to work for this event, and Ozzie was the manager in charge. And true to be told, I could not stand him when I first met him.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? I told you before. I thought Ozzie was like, for lack of a better word, I was like, my God, this guy's a prick. And what the reputation around at that time when I was given info on the client and who I'd be working with was he can be a little demanding, he can be a little strong, so just follow his lead and you'll be okay. So I just walked in, head down, like, just tell me what you need me to do, like, I'll handle my people. Cause we had like 200 people working that event.
Yeah, it's huge.
And I was like, just do what I can do and just keep going. And I hardly even talked to you. Like, I just like kept my distance. And then by the end of the day, I think by the end of like the second day, we were bantering back and forth, being sarcastic. I think, to be honest, I think we were working at the Galaxy.
It was the Galaxy game, and
yes.
It was at StubHub.
There you go. And I think we bonded over some comment about women's boobs, and
I didn't realize you were gay. I had no idea for the first few days that you were even gay, and a couple of friends who were helping me out with the event found it ridiculous that I didn't realize it. And sure enough, I just was like, Dan, are you gay? He's like, yeah. I was like, wow, man, I went back in my head. Did I overstep boundaries? Did I say inappropriate comments? All these things. But yes, it was awesome. You killed it, and impressed me, and I'm not easily impressed, and you definitely impressed me, and here we are about 7 years later. Yeah.
And one of the cool things about Ozzie is that I'm going to say this at the top of the show so I don't run out of time, but he was so supportive in that part of my career, so supportive in my personal life. When I went through cancer, he was one of the few people that every trip he came, for those of you that don't know, he's up in Seattle, but every trip he came out to LA, made a point to come and visit me when I was going through cancer, and he was there for Christian. So, for that, I will always be thankful. For everything else, I still don't like you for everything else, but for that.
It's mutual. The feeling is mutual.
Thank you. I love you. But oddly enough, I've been wanting to interview you for a long time. And, of course, when we come to Seattle, it's always just about going to do stuff and we never have time to sit down.
Yeah.
And then you can talk about this later, but your new ventures that you went into, I've been wanting to talk about that. It just hasn't worked out either. So here we are today, 7 years later. Finally got you on my show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
So Ozzie, Lucca, tell us how you put it together.
It all started, from the get-go. Growing up, I'm first generation here in the States. My father's from Puerto Rico. My mom's from Colombia. They both met in Portland, Oregon, where I was born. That's the first time this had actually come out. I always tell everybody I'm from Seattle because I grew up in Seattle. Both parents were very hard workers. My mom was a hairstylist. I remember growing up, and she used to work for a large hair salon, and just always on that grind. Same thing with my dad. He was going through his education, so he was getting his master's, finally his PhD a little bit later, and then he started teaching, but at the same time he was doing real estate. He had a music store, was always working with promotions. He has a big part with the salsa community here in the Pacific Northwest. Was one of the first guys bringing big bands. And so he always had that entrepreneurial style to him, as well as what I like to call his W-2, which kind of paid the bills. My mom, on the other hand, decided to leap out a little bit quicker and started her own hair salon. Both of them were interacting with each other and helping each other out. And, as business partners, they were unstoppable. My mom grew her salon to, I believe, 15 stations. And this was just all on her own. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. They started buying properties and literally went from nothing to something. And then the divorce. So that happened early on. I was about 11 years old. They ended up getting divorced. And everything just kind of crumbled from that point. Everything got split up. The relationship got real nasty. That was early on, about 11, 12 years old. My dad got remarried right away to an amazing woman who is now my stepmom, who I consider my mom. It just, the relationship between the two and myself it got separated. So at that point in my life, I just really felt like I needed to become my own person. So I struggled a bit through high school and college, ended up graduating. And, there's a couple things that happened within college that really were very impactful to me, that just kind of showed me who I am, what I can do and what I can't do. Right after college, I ended up going to Arizona for about 4 years. Was promised a great job out there. Mind you, I went to school for law. I got my degree in law, society, and social policy.
Really?
At the very end, ended up not wanting to, literally my last quarter, I decided that I didn't want to get my JD and I wasn't going to go to law school. And so I told my dad this, and my dad, obviously being a professor, having his PhD, was actually really cool about it. Made sure he was like, just finish. just finished. You have 1 quarter left, just finished. Well, my mom, on the other hand, who has no formal education, lost her shit, couldn't believe it and was furious and blah, 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 blah. But, that's just kind of my mom, who she is. And so at that point, when I graduated, not sure really what I wanted to do. So I knew I liked entertainment. I liked the nightlife. I was good with it. I was good with people. So I ended up bartending and promoting nightclubs for about a year. Just kind of figuring myself out, not sure what I wanted to do. And eventually, about a year's time, that's when I got the offer to go to Arizona. It was through a friend. His father had a business in Arizona and saw something in me and got me out there. And we ended up I ended up moving out there in, it was like 2006, 2005, right about there. Moved out there, which was a great experience. Put me on my own. I had no friends. I had no family. I was working in an industry that I had no idea. It was in construction. I had never done a day in construction in my life. I loved the idea, but I had never done anything. And so I was thrown out there for being bilingual, able to manage crews and all that. And I just learned on the fly. They gave me a truck, a trailer, and just threw me in the fire. Yeah. So I did that. I was promised a lot of things. And then about a year and a half into it, I called them all out on it and we ended up disagreeing on a lot of things. What I didn't realize who I was working for were 2 guys who were essentially embezzling money through the company. Long story short, they ended up trying to use me as a scapegoat. I ended up getting arrested. We ended up going to court. It was pretty apparent that I hadn't stole this money because I believe it was in the realms of $3 or $4 million.
Wow.
And so I was looking at 4 felonies, 3 or 4 felony cases. I was looking at about 4 years in prison. At the moment, I was 25, 26 years old and was just scared. And so ended up going to court. I got a great lawyer and I put down 10 grand as a retainer. We ended up writing a bunch of letters to the judge, went through 3 DAs because they ended up getting private jobs as we were going through all of this. Wow. So every time we deal with one DA, it was like, yes, this makes complete sense. You don't have the money. You had nothing to do this. You were just caught in a bad situation. And as soon as that would happen, they would get a job. They would head out. This happened 3 times. So I ended up extending this process for about 9 months. There was some crazy stuff that happened within that whole period. The guy who originally had set me up was one of the installers, ended up killing himself during this whole process. So there was that to deal with. And the guy, one of the partners who was involved in the embezzlement, ended up fleeing the country. So that was another part of it. And it was just so obvious that I had done any of this, but yet they were really trying to pin me to it. So, it came down to the last DA making us an offer because it was apparent that I hadn't done anything. It was a good offer. No felony charges, broke it down to like a misdemeanor. All I had to do was admit that I stole something that was less than $300. And I remember talking to my father about this and him telling me that, he's like, just do it. Just do it. Get out of there. It's a good offer. You don't need this stuff anymore. Just come back to Washington and we'll be all good. And I remember thinking in my head and the pride that I had and who I am, I couldn't admit it. I couldn't admit doing something that I didn't do. And right. Even if it was going to get me off of the potential of going to prison for 4 years and having this terrible record on my, or criminal record to my name, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And so I went up to the judge. We're in the court. Went up to the judge and calls everything out and asked me how I plead. And I just stood there. I didn't say anything. And he asked me again. And I kind of shook my head. And at this point, he was going to call me in contempt because it had been, a few minutes and I just didn't really respond. My lawyer calls me out, and he's like, Ozzie, you need to say either guilty or not guilty. He's like, either we're going to go, take this to trial, or we are going to, take the plea. I was like, I just am having such a hard time admitting something that I didn't do. And so sorry about that. He tells me, he's like, you just got to say guilty or not guilty. It's all you got to do. And so I got up there again. Judge asked me how I plead. Quiet. I got quiet again. Didn't respond. And he's like, if you don't answer me in the next 20 seconds, I'm holding you in contempt. So he looks at me and I look at him and I told him, I was like, I should have known better. Guilty, but I should have known better. I should have known what was going on. I was just a fool and I just didn't see it. But yes, I am guilty. And I remember that being one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, to swallow my pride, to do something, to basically put into a situation as a young Latino man, and going up against two Caucasian males who embezzled millions of dollars. I think even towards the end, there was some sort of, insurance scheme going on there as well with them. The thing got real nasty. It went into depth about stuff. I ended up taking the plea. I got no jail time, small fine, had to do some community service hours, and then was able to leave the state. So after having gone through that whole situation in my life, getting out of my comfort zone, I bought my first condo. I, saved some money finally. I'd really kind of done what I'd wanted to do and was on this right track at like 25, 26 years old. Everything taken from me. Now I'm looking at an $80,000 lawyer bill. I'd already dropped $10,000, it's money that I'd saved, at that age was a lot of money. And so I was broken. I was really, really broken. My mom at that point, being the strong woman who she is, I remember asking her, being like, hey, I need to pay the difference of this $70,000 I don't have. Can you help? Can we, take it out of the house, whatever. And she's like, no, we can't. And I was like, okay. So, what should I do? Asking her help. And she, told me to go back to my lawyer and offer him $2,000. From a $70,000 debt to a $2,000 offer. At this point, I have, I'm broke. I have no money. I'm at the mercy of anybody. So I went back to my lawyer and said, hey man, I got $2,000. That's it. He starts laughing. He's like, Ozzie, I would have never taken this case if I would have known. I was like, if I would have known it would have been an $80,000 bill, I would have never hired you. So I think we're in the same boat here. So I don't think he liked that too much. He went back to the partners, came back, and countered from 70 to, I think, 30. And so I went back to my mom. I said, hey, they came down to 30,000. Can we do that? And she goes, offer him 5. So I went back. I offered him 5. He did not like that at all. He countered back at me at $7,000 and said, wow, to him within 24 hours. And so I called my mom up and I was like, hey, they said 7. She's like, perfect. She wired me the money. I went in, I paid him, and that was it. So, through the whole thing of how crazy it was, there was a little bit of light towards the end, which, it gave me a little bit of hope in the sense of going through this whole turmoil and this whole world of shit that I just gone through, that, there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. There is some sort of lean to it, which really resonated with me. It really resonated with me. I had to spend about another year in Arizona because they wouldn't let me leave the state. But when I left the state, I came back to Seattle just with a second wind, if you want to call it. I was just hungry. I really wanted to go for it. And so I started, looking for jobs, talking to people, networking. And I decided I want to get into the liquor industry. I wanted to do sales, portfolio specialty, all of that. I ended up getting 6 job offers. I ended up getting 6, how would you say that? They rescinded 6 of their offers. They took them all back. I would get all the way to the top. I would beat everybody out, get to the point, that final interview. They would make the offer, and then they would do the criminal background check.
Right.
And as soon as they did that, and what was interesting was on my background, it didn't show the misdemeanor. It showed that I had gotten arrested on 3 felony accounts, but it didn't indicate what had
the
happened.
rejection. Yeah.
And so I'm just getting screwed and so I'm trying to explain to these people, like, no, that all got dropped, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to explain. Nobody wanted to hear it. So I literally, I got to the point where I went and got a job at a gym. I couldn't get a job anywhere. Nobody would hire me. And I'm furious. I'm like, I had just gone through this whole thing. I had gone down to Arizona. I took, when I started with that business down in Arizona, I think we were doing maybe 300,000. Within 18 months, I had that oiled. That machine was oiled, and we were doing, I think, $3 million a year. So we were just pushing. And, and it's not because of me, but I definitely added a portion to that, being able to take in all these sales, distribute them, and just get things running. So I'd succeeded in so many ways, had everything taken from me, and then decided to come back. And now through our legal system, I'm not allowed, or people just are not giving me the opportunity.
Right. All right. Well, before we continue on that side, so let me, because this is a lot of stuff that I didn't even know. We've never talked about this.
No, not many people know.
So I love this show. First of all, I want to know why your mom isn't fixing the national debt. She should be the one out there, like, trying to get all our money collected. Anyway, because that's amazing. Because I worked for an attorney, and we would have laughed at people coming in with an offer like that. Like, really, dude? But going back to that time in Arizona and everything that you went through during that time, is there a big lesson? Is there something that has stuck with you through that?
100%. And this is kind of my slogan is, we fall down. Everybody falls down. And the one thing we need to do is get back up. The difference that really separates people from succeeding in life, in my opinion, and those people who make it opposed to those who don't make it, are those who don't allow themselves to fall over or lay down for an extended period of time. Shit's going to happen to all of us all day long. And if we don't learn from our mistakes and from our failures, then that's what they are. They're failures. To turn those around, to get back up, is to create a situation where maybe you didn't get the outcome you wanted. Maybe I didn't get what I was looking for, but I got up. I learned from it. I learned to watch people, to look for things in business that aren't necessarily straightforward. So what it taught me was to be strong, that life is going to have ups and downs, and those downs they're hard, but you gotta get back up no matter what. And eventually in the long term of the game, you will come back. And it took me, I think, 5-6 years. It took me a while. It took me a long, long time before I was able to really, really, I stood up and I kept going, but it took me about that time to eventually start seeing some, reaping the benefits of what I'd gone through.
Right.
Like I was telling you, at that point I was working at a gym. I was selling there's nothing wrong with that, but I had gone through so many things, and I'd gone to school and, all of this to work at a gym. It was a realization for me at that moment to be like, man, you need to do something.
Yeah. It's people underestimate, because on paper we look amazing. On a resume, we can make a resume look amazing, but the court system comes in with their own paper, and just the right words can knock you down. Because I've been through it too, so I totally understand that you're at the top, and then all of a sudden you're like, nobody will even open the door for me. What the hell? Now, from what I know you're still a real, people use this word a lot, but you are a people person. You are, your personality definitely carries you and opens doors, because I've seen it happen. But a situation like that, I would think that would have like crushed your belief in the human race. But did it at the time, and did you work through it, or did it never happen?
Oh yeah, it did 100%. 100%. I got angry. I got really angry at points. I felt alone. I felt that, because, and a lot of this, and I didn't really explain to it too much of it, but the biggest reason I didn't go into to trial was because of something my lawyer had told me. And he had sat down with me and said, "Hey, Ozzie, we have a 90% chance of winning this. There's no real substantial evidence that's going to tie you to any of this. There's so many circumstances that lead to so many different things. We have a great chance of winning this. We go to trial, I feel very confident. But there's always that chance that a jury doesn't see the facts of the case. What they see is young, shaved head, facial hair, Latino, who is, in their minds, illegal, a gangbanger, all of these different things that could come into play that you have no control over." And so, having all that said, it really resonated with me, and I remember feeling angry and upset and being like, "This is ridiculous. We live in in the 2000s, and I'm still feeling this pressure, the oppression of being a minority, which was fucking ridiculous." Sure, I'd done some stupid shit in my life, but who hasn't? And I'm just really, really, really getting reamed for this. To be honest, it was one of my best friends who really, really helped me through all this. Ryan, my brother. He saw something in me that people that could see, but he believed it. And he had gone through his struggles and all of that, and we kind of leaned on each other through this whole thing. And he was on the up and rise, and he was really catching wind. He worked for this startup, which is huge now. I won't even mention the name, but it's publicly traded. And he was, on ground level, and just no formal education, but he's just a beast. He's a beast. And when it comes to grinding and doing all this, that's who he is. And so he was on the up, and I'm going through all this bullshit of not being able to get a job and not being able to go to Canada because of my record. Like, there's just so many little things that he stepped in. He always, gave me faith. Financially, he helped me out when I needed it. He was the one who actually paid for all of the legal fees to get my case sealed. So I think that was 6 or 7 years later when I got it sealed. Which basically doesn't allow anybody except the FBI to go in and find this.
Yeah.
So as soon as that happened, everybody wants to hire Ozzie now. So that's when I started working with Iger and Microsoft, and started getting into the marketing and promotion. Actually, I'm lying. I started with Nissan. Nissan gave me my first opportunity. Worked with them for a while, and then Microsoft came along. So having the background and everything that I'd gone through, now I'm having an opportunity, like my first little thread, that I was not going to let anybody beat me at this, and I made sure of it. And so that's why I was so gung-ho about everything. I had my finger on every single thing that was going on, which allowed me to just scale very quickly within the company. But I was also me, and, my parents' child, that I had that entrepreneurship. I always knew that I didn't want to not necessarily work for somebody, but more, I didn't want to be stuck in an office for 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, which was the real reason I didn't really want to become a lawyer. But I always knew I had that. And so I started looking for a need within the industry that I was in. And one day we just had trouble staffing in Seattle. And I had a good network of friends on social media. And so I asked my boss at the time, I was like, hey, can I potentially help to staff this? And he said, yeah, sure. How many can you get? And I was like, what do you need? Can you get 10 people? I was like, perfect. In an hour, I got 10 people. The next day they came back and our event was 24 hours later. And they're like, Ozzie, can you get 30 people? Within, I think, 5 or 6 hours, I got 30 people. And they're like, how many can you get? Because we're still short. So me by myself with no company, no experience, ended up staffing 50% of this project. As you know, we're very big in the beginning in Seattle. I staffed 50% of it, and then a staffing company, a professional staffing company, staffed the other 50% of it.
Yeah.
So I knew I had something there. So after that, I just really started thinking about that. My ex, Lexi at the time, we kind of talked about it, and she said, why don't we start something? She was in the liquor industry, the one that I wanted to be in. And, but we decided to start this staffing, agency on the side, DNA. And it took a while to really get things going. But, after a couple of years, we really just started ramping up. And, that's how we met, was through one of our events, and you've worked with me before, strictly with DNA. And, so, DNA just kind of evolved on its own. I was working both. I talked with my boss, made sure that there was no conflict of interest with it at all. But I ended up doing both at the same time, running side by side. And I think it was about 4 years ago now that I went off on my own. Yeah. And which transitioned from the marketing side to back to the construction, which I've always had a little bit of a passion for. I love real estate. I love, remodels, all that DIY shit on TV. I love doing that. I love watching that. And I love seeing something go from nothing to something. So I decided I wanted to get into that industry.
So before you go in that direction, just so people are listening, you probably wonder, like, what are you talking about marketing? So just so you know, like, if you go to a big event, say you go to a soccer game or an expo or something on the lines, and there's people on the sidelines at the booth giving you free stuff, letting you sample things. Sometimes you have to fill out surveys and they give you a t-shirt. That's the kind of marketing that we did. I'm more in the staffing side of it now. I don't go out in the field, post-cancer. And that's how Ozzie and I met. I was staffed to lead a team that Ozzie was managing an event. So we were at the Galaxy game giving away t-shirts and hats or something like that. So glasses. I think glasses and hats, and guys, I still have a bunch of that stuff still. Yeah. But at the time for those, we were working for Microsoft, and that's how I became a Surface fan. But okay, so there's this big arc, because what got you in trouble with the law per se, construction, now you're like kind of coming full circle to it under your own terms.
Yeah. No, it really did. It came full circle. It fueled the fire for it. So I ended up getting a job with this company to do hardscapes. They wouldn't hire me on as a project manager because I didn't have experience, but they would hire me on as a salesperson designer. So, I just taught myself. The thing was, it was 100% commission. I had DNA, the marketing company, on the side that was paying my bills and just, maintaining me while I learned this new trade. And so I was with them for about a year and a half. I learned, a ton from them. I started noticing the things that I had noticed with the previous company back in Arizona. The people who were in charge weren't necessarily the most honest people. They promised the client the world to get you in. They would say anything to get you in, to get the sale. And they wanted the sale that day. Give me money that day. And then, once you got the sale, you got the client committed to it. And these are, this is a good amount of money. These are $10,000, $15,000, $50,000 projects. that now somebody has signed a contract and committed to, and now they were promised the world, and then they were offered mediocrity, to say the least. I found a problem with that. It really, it bothered me because it showed a lot of what was happening in Arizona, this deceitfulness, and I just didn't like that. I had learned from that. I'd become my own man because of that, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. And so I decided to go off on my own, with really, really no idea how to do it. So I quit. I found a crew who was great. I knew how to do the sales and design aspect of it. I knew the logistics on ordering, things like that. They knew the actual installment and construction of it. I knew a bit of it, not formally on hand, but just from what I could read and learn online. And we just started. We started with one project that led into 2, that led into 3, that led into 5, that first 5 months. And, I was learning. I was getting, the wheels going, and going into my first year, emotionally I'd gone through, a terrible breakup, as was going to get married, and thank you that it didn't happen. And I learned so much, but what that relationship really did for me was, again, I looked at it as a falling. I fell down and I needed to get back up, and I used that fuel to fire me. I was an animal. I'm not going to lie, man. I was an animal. I'm still an animal, but I was about it. I was getting up at 2, 3 in the morning, and I would be putting together designs and concepts, 3D renderings. I taught myself how to use an AutoCAD program on my own. No nothing. I sat there and I just tinkered with it for hours upon hours and just went for it. I taught myself all of this. I started reading design books. I started looking at all these things, and it was just because I felt that feeling again of when I had gone through the whole Arizona stuff and through the courts. I'd felt that, but now it was on an emotional basis. Now this was somebody who I had trusted and who, I lived with, that had did me wrong, and I felt I was deceived. I was really deceived. And so I took all of that and ran with it. It fueled me. I was, again, and I started killing it. I was hitting projections in my first 8 months that I had projected for year 3 and 4.
Wow.
I was doing everything. I was doing the design, sales, project managing, logistics. All I had to do was my crews were installing it. They would stop one project, they would be on to the next. So I had DNA rolling on one hand, which was still going, and I would travel here and there to different cities to do events. And then as soon as I was back, I was on the ground doing the construction stuff, and I was selling jobs, designing. Throughout this whole thing, I had also picked up a couple Airbnbs, so I started rentals as well. So I had the Airbnbs going in one, which when I was in town, I would clean and I would get ready, and I'd be done with that, and I would hop to an event, and I would go do that event. And once I was done with that event, I would go home and finish out the paperwork for a project we were on and getting everything squared away. And so I got to the point where I was just like, shit. I was like, I'm getting it. Things are starting to click. Money's coming in, but now I need to figure out, how am I going to scale this? How am I going to get this bigger? And so thank goodness for my brother Ryan, went back to him, was like, I think I got something here. And he looked into it and he's like, yeah, you got something definitely here. We need to figure this out. And we started scaling it. I started hiring people, people to assist me with DNA, with the Airbnbs. I brought on salespeople. I brought on second crews. Had a couple friends, a friend of mine who's a structural engineer who's going to help us out with, certain cases, and basically just putting a squad together. And, right now I feel like the 24-year-old Ozzie again. I'm strong, except I'm way more knowledgeable, better looking, better money, and so it's just a better version, all around.
Yes, of course, better looking. Let me ask you this, because you've had your share of experiences with people that like to cut corners, let's put it politely. How do you keep yourself in check?
I think I don't even need to keep myself in check anymore, because when you touch that burner and it is that hot, the emotional scars that I have are so deep in me that I don't even need to. I see it. I see when people start to cut corners now. It's a little bit more prevalent. Obviously, I'm learning. I learn every day. That's another thing about me is I try to learn something every day new. So, I'm still growing and learning, but at the same time, I have this will, this law instilled in me that's like, if I'm going to do something, and as corny as it sounds, people would say, if you're going to do something, do it the best that you can do it. And it's really gratifying at the end of the day when you do something that it's done properly, it's done right. The one thing I'm dealing with my sales guys are like, we're not the cheapest out there. And, we come in so high and people are like, it's so expensive. That's true. But like anything in life, you get what you give. If it's financial, if I pay, if I go the cheap route, I'm going to get the cheap product majority of the time. If I invest emotionally very little and go cheap into that, then I'm going to get that result back. And so for me, I take my guys out there and I show them, I was like, this is how I present to my clients. I'm passionate about this. My clients know that they can call me at any time of the day. They can text me. If I made a mistake at any point, I'm the one who takes over that. I don't come back to the customer and say, hey, I'm going to need another $10,000 because I made a mistake and I measured wrong over here, which happened in December. I had made a mistake on excavation, on cubic footage. Maybe like a $7,000 mistake that I had made. But for my integrity of who I am, I could have gone back to the clients, asked for more money. I could have cut corners and not excavated and developed a different design. But that's not who I am. And I manned up. I did it. I took the cut. I took the hit. But the product turned out amazing. The client was incredibly happy with it. And so, that's sure there's going to be moments in time where you have every opportunity to cut a corner and get the easy way out. But in the long run, it's going to catch up to you. It will always catch up to you. And so what I wanted to do, I wanted to start with such a strong base of integrity, of quality, that no matter 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I'm hoping to be in business for an extended period of time like that my previous actions and work will show through that. And people will recognize that and see our passion, see our ability, see our quality. And for me personally, it's I've learned so much within that field and realm that I apply it to everything. And, when it comes to friendships with people or relationships with people now at my age, it's a different story. I'm starting to see somebody now and I'm just like, Ozzie at 25 years old in this relationship would have had one foot out the door the entire time, would have been kind of looking and, seeing, what's the next best opportunity. But everything that I've gone through now, I'm all about it. I'm 100%. And, it's a different feeling.
Well, you have to, it's like, you start collecting the scars and the bumps and the bruises become stripes and stars on your shoulder. And you have to honor them. And I always tell people that it's like, and I'll always, of course, not to compare stories, but in my journey, there's been a lot of knockdowns. There's been, bruises and I can definitely, I tell people, I could sit down and be a bitter old queen and I don't think anybody would say you haven't earned it. But what am I really going to get out of that other than sit at home alone? And I'd like, not to, kiss ass or anything, but one of the things, and I think one of the reasons that we got along so well professionally was because I'm at the same level. I'm not college graduate. I had to really, prove myself out in the field. And I had to do things, I had to make sure that every I was dotted, every T crossed, my P's and Q's, because when things started coming down and trickle down where there was a mistake, I knew that when they got to me, there were no mistakes. And if I did it, how did I miss that? And let me let me highlight that because I'm not going to make that mistake again. Which in
That's
turn,
what I love about you. I remember being that about you and like seeing how detailed you were with everything. And, you know, that's why we're still friends, you know, 6-7 years later and still do business together is because of that, is because of who you are. And, you know, Daniel, your story and your life journey it's an inspiration for me. There's times I look at it and I mean, I got the cup right here. It shows it, you know, that I think about it all the time. It's like, you know, life has given you so many obstacles, but yet you smile, you know, you're up, you get back up and you keep on going. And, you know, fuck a formal education. That doesn't mean shit unless you're a doctor or a lawyer or, you know, an accountant. Okay. Certain industries and careers require that, but for the most fucking part, no, you don't need, I was going to go into law and I'm, you know, I own a construction company and a marketing company and I have Airbnbs and, you know, I do this, whatever. You're a hustler like by nature. And people, I think, take that term as a bad thing, you know, being a hustler, but it's not. And that's who you are. And that inspires me. Your life story has inspired me so many times in my life where I'm like, oh, you know, why can't I, you know, why is this shit happening? I look and fuck, man. I think if I'm upset and sad right now, man, I mean, Daniel has gone through some shit and, you're such a great person and you can smile about it and you have, and sure, we all have our shitty days. We don't want to get up sometimes and yeah, it's bad, but you know, the overall, the long-term game, what has happened. And, you know, again, it's
and I think, I'm going to say this, I think we're both kind of proof of the fact that, and this goes for anybody out there who's going through hard times, you fall in, especially young people, if you have fallen, and you will, we all do,
100%.
The get up and go afterwards is not immediate all the time. And I think that's where people kind of get lost is, okay, I fell down, but I have all this experience. I'm ready to go. And the universe is like, nah.
Yeah, nah. I mean, the universe, the way I look at it is this. The universe, every time you fall, the universe is trying to teach you a lesson. Until you understand and get that lesson and graduate from that lesson, you're really not going to be able to get up. You know, it took me years to learn the lesson that I was meant to be taught and to take from my whole Arizona and legal experience. It took me so long to get over it and not be mad and bitter, but really, really, really gain and learn from it that I recognize that this doesn't happen overnight. And so shit may happen. You may fall and you want to get up and you think you're ready, but you're not. Like really, really understand what was meant here. You know, what was meant to happen? What were you supposed to gain? Who were you supposed to meet? Sometimes it's a fall because you're headed in a direction and now the universe says, no. I need you to meet this person. I need you to do business, to do something that it's maybe just that connection and maybe it's just that little bit of time. But now all of a sudden, oh shit, if I wouldn't have done this wouldn't have happened and it wouldn't have led me here to meet this person. And now look at me. And sometimes it takes years to look back and say, I get it. And it literally took me years. I honestly did not have that aha moment until this year. Until this year, I looked back and I was like, now I get why I was supposed to go to Arizona, you know, fail, fall, come back, not get jobs, get knocked down again, you know, go through all of this, you know, relationships, business, everything to now being at the point of my life where I'm at right now and say, I get it. I learned. I needed to experience that. I needed to fall down with that. Now, fuck, man, I got a cease and desist. I've gotten sued twice, 2 times so far. Does it scare me? Get out of here with that shit. Get out of here. Like, I know exactly what I'm doing. People are trying to intimidate, and people will do exactly that. There's this big dog. They're barking. Okay, you're barking. Why are you barking? Because now I'm scaring you. You're intimidated from me, and now you're going to try to use that big bark. But I've gone through so much shit in my life that your bark don't scare me, your bite don't scare me. So now all of a sudden I peel back the bark and the bite, and all I see is a little timid boy. Like, oh, now I get what you're trying to do. Now I see what your intents are. You're intimidated by my success, and now I use that. One of the things I learned I don't remember where I heard this. I think actually I heard it from Jimmy Iovine, a famous music producer. And he was talking about how to turn a headwind. When you're flying, if you fly somewhere and you have a headwind, sometimes it takes an hour longer to get to a destination than it does to get back. And it's because of these headwinds. Well, a headwind can be used in an adverse effect as well. It can become a tailwind. So now instead of taking me 5 hours to get somewhere, it took me 3 hours to get there because of that tailwind. So I took that concept, and what they were talking about was how to turn a headwind into a tailwind. How to turn this life situation, this fucked up situation of, going to jail, getting cheated on, family members getting sick, all of these different things. How do I turn that headwind that's pushing me back and utilize it as fuel to get me somewhere? And to be honest, it's a perspective. All it is how you view things in life. How do you view this? When I fell down, I needed to change my perspective on how I viewed people, how I viewed business, how I viewed relationships. And that turned everything. It could be the exact same shit we're in, but now I'm looking at this shit as, oh, look at this. This is a piece of art. It's beautiful. It's coiled up and it maybe has an interesting odor to it, but it's beautiful. And now I'm looking at it in a different way that all of a sudden makes it pleasant. And now I'm able to do something with this. If anything that I could, if I could talk to, if somebody's watching this and they're like, what should I take from this? Learn that you need to fall down and get back up. And it's not that easy. It's not that fast, but you can do it. That any problem, headwind that comes to you, figure out how to look at it in a different way. How do you turn that around and make that a positive in the sense of like fueling your fire? Does it get you motivated to do something else? Figure that out. It's all about perception these days. You can literally change your life in 90 days from good to bad, bad to worse, whatever. But your life can change like that. It's never too late. You're never too old. Things are never too bad. You can always change your life, and it's your perception. If you let yourself beat yourself up, that's what's going to happen. But if you change that outlook on life, man, you're going to be nothing but successful in every facet of your life.
Yeah, there's so much truth to that. People who are following me for a while know, anybody who's new to the show, I went through anal cancer in 2015, and I never really let it knock me down. From the very beginning, I was able, it's like it kicked my ass, but I'm still here. Or what was the other one? It's behind me now, so I'm okay. But yes, for anybody listening, I'm in remission. I'm okay. But I do look at my life sometimes and go, okay, how can I use this for the better? How can I make this accessible to everybody and understand that things are going to be bad, but you can make them better? My stand-up comedy, my very first show, my very first jokes were about going to the colorectal doctor and getting probed to check for anal cancer. That was my first 3 minutes of jokes ever on stand-up were about anal cancer, and people just, for lack of better, ate it up. And my teachers, Corey Craig and Matt Moore, were like, we have never seen anybody do that, like completely take their illness and go, here it is in your face, basically, let's laugh about it. And that was pretty cool. But oddly enough, we hit the 45-minute mark just when you started giving your words of wisdom. And that's usually when I ask my guests to share some words of wisdom. So that's how in sync we are. In sync we are. So some of my standard questions are like, if in the book of Ozzie, when they write your biography, what's the first sentence in the book?
His ambition far succeeded his skills.
Nice.
That's it. I'm hungry, man. I'm hungry. I could be okay at something, but because I'm that hungry at it, I'm going to keep on trying over and over and over to somebody who might be really with that skill set can come out and hit it out of the park the first time. Might take me a few times, but I'll get there.
If you could name this episode, what would you name it?
Hustlers. not magazine. You might have an array of audience be like, whoa, 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 these two guys on chat. Definitely, let's get on that. Yeah, hustling, man, hustlers. That's what it's about.
But one of the we're talking about how all these lessons learned help you professionally, but they help you through life. Because one of the things that I started promotional work, doing laundry. One of my first gigs was for Tide after Hurricane Ike in Galveston.
Did you eat the little pods?
Yeah, I tried, but they didn't work. I'm still dirty. I'm still dirty.
On the inside. Trying to clean yourself up from the inside out, huh?
But the voices are still there. They never went away. But one of my first jobs was Tide, and I realized people had lost everything, and they were coming up to the truck to get their laundry done because they had nothing else. And I'll tell this quick story. There was one lady that came into one of the laundromats when we were doing laundry, because some of us were at laundromats, and she walked in with all this clothes, and she was like, we were like, ma'am, we're here from Tide. We're all happy, like all nice and clean, and she's like with her 4 kids and just beaten down. She's lost everything. And she's like, well, here's some money. We're like, no, we got the money. We got the soap. And she's like, okay, well, I don't know what she was going to give us, something else. And we're like, no, ma'am, we're going to wash your clothes. We're going to dry your clothes. We're going to fold it up for you. We got this. She went and sat down in a chair, and I was right next to her. And the only thing she said was, well, what am I going to do for the next 2 hours? But not I have 2 hours to spare. It's like, this is the only thing normal in my life right now. And you guys just took that away from me. And it made me feel so crappy. And that's why I tell people in promotions, like, pick jobs that you know are going to give you something back. Hang out with people that will give you something back. That woman gave me such perspective in life that even when you're at your crappiest and your lowest and God, the universe, you feel have completely abandoned you, find some normalcies. Find something that makes you feel like you're still part of life. And that's kind of like in the never ending story. That's the little grain of sand that's going to make everything grow again. And because you brought it up, like, yeah, when I was going through cancer, I still made my friends laugh, and I wanted to do whatever I could for people, because that for me was normal. Like, I had to continue to do it. So I admired you. And I mean, for people that know us know that I love you. Even Christian knows. I'm like, I'm sorry. If Papi Ozzie calls, there is no Christian. Like, move. And I've told you this. I said at the beginning, you just gave me such support when we worked together. And you encouraged me. And then I watched you and I was like, Ozzie is my spirit animal. Like, I want to, like, somebody gets me that. And here's what I'm trying to say about people. People see, I'm gonna be very not humble about this. People see us working, especially when we work together. People saw us working and we're like, this is what needs to be done. I'm not gonna yell at you. I'm not gonna get mad, but you need to do what I'm saying, not because I'm the boss, because I'm right. And and here it is. And nothing that I'm asking you to do, I haven't done myself. So I know how to do it. And if you can't do it, then you need to go home and I will do it for you. And people, I think, because all I had to do was post the job online and people knew immediately, like, are you working it? I'm like, yes, I'm leading it. I'm with you. And I learned that from you, that the moment you put your word out, your reputation has high standards and people want to be around high standards. So for anybody out there, I guess this is a second words of wisdom. Set your standards and people will come to you. You don't even have to beg or plead with people. People can see you and they'll be there for you. And again, this is for anybody listening. And if I'm going to put your website on my page so they can see your work. But when you see his work, you're like, fucking hey man, I want this guy to like fix my deck. Like he's got to fix my yard. He's got to do it. And no stereotype, no Latinos doing yards.
We are Latinos and we do yards, so it's all good.
If you could go back and talk to Ozzie before he left for Arizona, what would you tell him?
Stick with it. Don't ever give up. Keep it going. It's not going to be easy, but anything that's worth any while doesn't come easy, and just stay with it.
Yeah. That I think when I've asked other people about their lives and what they would change, or when I'm interviewing them, they usually come up with they pick the hardest things sometimes, and some people want to change it, and I'm like, do you realize you wouldn't be here today?
Yeah.
Without that. Because if I look back on my life, HIV, cancer, the ostomy, even my addiction, and being clean and sober, I don't think, would I want to be without HIV? Probably. Would I not want to have to go through cancer? You bet your ass on that one. But I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have the career, the friendships, and the strength that I have today. And do you find it, I kind of think I know the answer to this, but do you find it hard to sit back and pat yourself on the back?
One thing I've always been very real about is, and I don't know if this is patting myself on the back, but it's smelling the roses. It's taking time within time to enjoy the moment, to have a glass of wine, to, get up and take a flight to Europe, or just whatever, just enjoy the moment. I call that patting myself on the back. Like I make sure that I'm not 100% of just grind. I'm not 100% of just party. There's a balance. There's definitely has to be that balance there. And I feel I do a good job of it. I do. I sit back and I enjoy the things. I enjoy what I have now. I enjoy the people that I know now who are in my life. I've created and molded this life that I've wanted. And now I sit back and say, I thank the universe for it. I thank the universe and say, yes, I get it. And, and thank you. I don't know if I'd call that patting myself on the back, but yeah, maybe, kind of, sort of. Sure. Why not?
Well, I think and I'm going to put this really on Latinos, first generation, hardworking parents. We learn this thing that you have to hustle, go, work, build more, because our parents may have come from a place where there wasn't a lot available. Now they're a country where a lot's available, so we learned that. Like I still hoard food. I cans of food in my cabinet until my cleaning lady is like, it's expired, I'm gonna throw it away. Because my mom came from a depression time where she did that, and I just learned that from her. Always have canned food because you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. And Christian tells me, I was like, hun, we can buy food. I'm like, but you never know.
What's going to happen? Well, it's an interesting thing that you kind of mentioned, and not take up much time, but, being Latino and having that work ethic and having, all these different values that come with your family and heritage and ethnicity. One of the biggest things that I've taken in life has actually come from my stepmom, my new mom. That she awesome lady. I love her to death. I couldn't have been more blessed in this world. But she brought something to the table. She's blonde hair, blue or green eyes, white lady, just amazing. But she was the one who really kind of instilled in me something that was so deep, and it still sticks with me now, is doing something not necessarily that I love, but waking up Monday morning and not having this, oh, I got to go to work or dreading this, but like getting up Monday and being excited. Don't do anything that you don't want to do. Sure, there's situations where, oh, I got to grind and I got to save more time, blah, blah, blah. But, if I'm really dreading something and hating something, fuck it, get out, It's not meant for you. Your body is telling you something. Your body is saying, this is not meant for you. You're not supposed to do this because it's telling you. Your body's naturally going to tell you these things. And she instilled this in me, at 11, 12 years old. I was like, fuck, that's true. My father hated it because I had like 20 jobs, and every time I'd quit a job, I'd come home like, Timur said I didn't, if I didn't like it, I didn't have to do it. And he just kind of look over at her because he's had a handful of jobs his entire life. But it was so great because I got to experience so many different things and did so many different things until I found who I was. And she helped me mold myself just by those few words. And she always has these little nips of inspiration of little, things here and there that, maybe she doesn't know that they're that inspiring, that I take them so deep, but I do. And they've done wonders. And it didn't come from a Latina woman. It came from, a blonde hair, blue eyes, great woman who's I can call my mother now, that did it. And so I think I've been lucky enough that I have both sides.
A balance, yeah.
Balance. It's the yin and the yang.
Yeah, not many people. I had to learn that from the knocks and the drops and the bruises and again, post-cancer was when I sat down and I was like, what am I going to do now? Because I couldn't do the things that I could do before. And I know you got to go, so we'll let you go soon. But it was one of those things like, I can't do what I used to do because my body won't let me. So what will I do that I won't regret in the morning? Like, what do I want to do? But definitely my life has turned out for the best. For everybody listening, we're down to the end. I call him my bro. I text him when I need bro time because he definitely has brought that energy into my life. And that it's not kissing your ass. It's, I truly love you and admire you. And there's a place in my heart for you all the time. Again, Christian knows that the moment Ozzie says I'm gay, I'm leaving him for Ozzie. So we're just waiting on those moments.
There's many men out there that keep telling me I'm 4 drinks away from being gay, and I'm taking
six pack and a dare. For everyone listening, I want to thank my producer, Mr. Kevin Morris, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir. Go check us out at normalentertainment.com. You can find many shows on the network. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Follow me. There's new shows on the network. Little Mexican Production is producing more shows. We've got putting together conversations with life coaches and therapists coming up soon. I've also got Better You Workshop, where we'll help you find the answers within you, clearing your chakras and balance you out. So go check those out at the Better You Facebook page and follow the lessons. You can play those anytime. And if you have any questions, get in touch. For now, I want to thank my bro, Ozzie Lucca, for being on the show. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Don't forget to check out Outdoor Design by Oz if you're in the Seattle area. We're unfortunately booked out all year long, but if you're looking to do a project next year.
That is awesome. And don't hang up. We'll talk in a second. Everybody out there, this is Daniel Garza saying, hey, put it together.
This is how I put it together. This is how I put it together. This is how I put it together.
Subscribe to Put It Together on iTunes, Stitcher, and at abnormalentertainment.com/putittogether. Find Put It Together on Facebook and tweet Daniel at Lil Messican, LILMESICAN. And for more podcasts, comics, books, movies, and more, head to abnormalentertainment.com.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.